Like a rusted garage door needing a gallon of WD-40, John Kerry opened his mouth this weekend, defending Tango Obama's recent terror response. I bet he says the president's schedule isn't set by terrorists.
The President of the United States' schedule is not set by terrorists. The President of the United States has major diplomatic responsibilities. He has to engage with other countries. That was an important part of trying to build a relationship and achieve some of our goals with respect to human rights, with respect to transformation in Syria, in Cuba, and elsewhere. Life doesn't stop because one terrible incident takes place in one place.
Says the man so wooden, Orkin sprays him weekly. But he's right, life doesn't stop unless you're in Brussels or Pakistan and it's shredded to pieces. But for Kerry, there's bigger fish than ISIS. Climate change, wage gaps, Argentinian dance instructors. Here's the talking tree on how the world views Trump.
Every leader I meet, they ask about what is happening in America. They cannot believe it. I think it is fair to say that they're shocked. They don't know where it's taking the United States of America. It upsets people's sense of equilibrium about our steadiness, about our reliability. To some degree, I must say to you, some of the questions, the way they're posed to me, it's clear to me that what's happening is an embarrassment to our country.
Yes, after so much terror, this is the world's concern, Trump. I think I can speak for all of us. I don't care what the world thinks. They don't have the best track record. Just 8 years ago, a new leader received the Nobel Prize for just being him. His vague hope and change lauded for ending the America of old. Tired of the world's policemen, Obama and world buried its badge and gun. Now in 2016, the world quakes. Where's that gun, that badge? Sure, Trump's an impulsive hydrant, but can the fear he causes worldwide be worse than Obama's aloof uselessness? This is the pendulum swing, coming after 8 years of odd priorities, favoritism towards enemies, snubbing of allies, dismissal of our own safety, all in the service of world acclaim for Obama. After slumming in a globe of ghouls, maybe it's time for us to be the scary guy on the block, that disheveled, tattooed lunk with a pit bull and bloodshot eyes. Because if we've learned anything this weekend, all love gets you in this world is killed. Jedediah, saw you in The View, did a good job today, as usual.
Thank you.
Here's my issue with Kerry. Do you honestly believe him that, like, if he was going around the world and that's all these world leaders were talking about in Trump, and even if they weren't, he would have to say that.
Right. Like, you know? he doesn't realize there's bigger problems. Like the whole world, people suffering with poverty, with terrorism, they're all talking about Donald Trump. And somehow Obama doing the wave at a baseball game when Americans are injured and dead, that's not embarrassing. But Donald Trump and Ted Cruz fighting, that's a cause for world humiliation. Mm-hmm. He's ridiculous. Look, the president has been an embarrassment on this, among other things. When you have our men and women out there that are dying and being injured and you've got the president acting like this, it's a bunch of nonsense, and he knows that. He's trying to cover up for him, but no one's buying what he's selling.
All right, but Ebony, we know the logic behind this. If you change your plans, then it looks like the terrorists have an edge. So you must continue with your tango lessons, correct?
You know what? Look, I said it and I'll say it again. I agree, Greg. I think the White House has got this miscalculated. I think the Obama administration has come out through their correspondence and said, this is us being strong. This is us not letting terrorism dictate what we do as America. And on a basic level, I actually get that, but it's not translating that way. It looks like, to Jedediah's point, that we're burying our head in the sand and acting like this is not a problem, when obviously it very much so is. And then it also looks like a little bit, Greg, he's talking out both sides of his mouth. I'm talking about the president, because you say that this is our priority and we absolutely will defeat ISIS. Now he's gotten to that point, but then we don't disrupt anything when 30-plus people are murdered.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Eric? Do you think this whole idea of staying calm is, I mean...
It's stupid.
Yeah.
I think it's asinine. Part of the problem, and I agree with Jedediah, that's embarrassing. When President Obama's doing the wave, he's got his shades back, he's kicking back with ESPN doing the only interview, asking him, why are you here? And he said, well, along the lines of what you say, if we change our routine, then they're winning. No, there were at least 9 Americans who were missing at the time of the wave.
Ugh.
At least 3 of them have been confirmed dead since then. So it's okay. You know, I'm not suggesting he's drop everything, come back to D.C. and handle it from there. I'm saying just don't do things that optically are so bad, as Ebony points out. You know what else is embarrassing? When he went golfing 6 minutes after announcing that an American was beheaded by ISIS. That's embarrassing. It's also embarrassing when he calls ISIS the JV team as they're expanding. And lastly, Hillary Clinton saying that here's how we handle things like this. We handle it by being vigilant and using diplomacy. It's not, really? Because we've been vigilant. We've tried her diplomacy. It doesn't seem to be working.
Dana, we know how the media reacts when a Republican president does something that optically isn't, like whether it's President Bush reading a book to kids.
Trying to startle young children.
Yeah, exactly. And
do you think Michael Moore's going to make a movie about this?
I doubt it. No.
Right?
His last movie tanked, by the way, so I don't think he will be making movies for quite some time. Maybe he should get on Nutrisystem. If Romney did the tango in Argentina, President Romney or President McCain had done the tango in Argentina after this, the world would burst their eardrums.
Well, I do think there are certain times that the look of something, the optics of something, is out of whack with what you're actually doing behind the scenes, and sometimes you never recover from that.
Right.
So Michael Moore decided to make a movie about watch this drive, as if that meant that President Bush doesn't care anything about the war, he just wants to play golf. The flyover over Hurricane Katrina, considered to be the same. If you're President Obama, you have other ones. For example, going to the fundraiser the next day in Las Vegas after the Benghazi terror attack. He also called to congratulate the Belgian leader on Friday Friday before last, when they arrested the terrorist. And then they put out an announcement, and the Belgians were patting themselves on the back. But I thought Mark Thiessen, a columnist and I think he's a Fox News contributor as well, made the point that why was anybody telegraphing to the world that they had captured this terrorist instead of interrogating him to try to get the information to prevent the terror attack that happened on Monday, which was accelerated because they knew he had been captured. And we know that their interrogation didn't even try to do that. And yes, I very much believe that most of the leaders of the world are not asking about what should we do to prevent terrorist attacks, but instead are worried about Trump. I guarantee that is what they're asking.
There could be world leaders that are going like you know what, finally, get rid of this guy. But I don't think Kerry would transmit that information to America. By the way, Trump and Cruz have been very critical of the administration in terms of foreign policy, standing in the world. Let's listen to them from this weekend, shall we? Okay, Greg.
I don't think America is a safe place for Americans. You want to know the truth. I don't think England or I don't think that Europe is a safe place. No, I don't. I think there are a lot of problems in Europe that are very, very severe, weak. You know, lots of the free world has become weak.
For 7 years, President Obama and Hillary Clinton and this administration have been so bound up by political correctness, they've refused to acknowledge what it is we're fighting. They've refused even to name it. After every one of these attacks, the president does a national TV conference where he refuses to say the words radical Islamic terrorism. Instead, he lectures Americans on Islamophobia.
Well, a very short point on this. I think these statistics are amazing. And if this is a record that Obama and Kerry and Hillary Clinton are going to have to answer for, and that Cruz and Trump and whoever else Kasich decides if they want to press on it. Deaths from jihadists have risen. This is amazing. About 2,500 innocents a year between the years of 2001 to 2006. Today, in 2014 to 2015, that is 28,000 a year. So I do think that if you're just looking at measurement of fighting the war on terror, that certainly they're not contained. And you could argue that ISIS has more ability to plot and plan terror attacks from safe havens than they did from before President Obama took office.
But then again, Jed, people would say, well, that's obviously America's fault.
Yeah, well, isn't everything our fault? All of these Islamic extremists are somehow our fault. I think Trump is pointing out the issue of homegrown terrorism, that you do have these enclaves of Islamic extremism throughout the country, and that has to be addressed. And for me, the big issue here is that I don't see how Hillary is viewed from a strong point when it comes to national security. She's been out there and had to defend this administration repeatedly, and this administration has failed on this. They've lied about what level threat we've had. They've said that they're taking it seriously and going after ISIS. They're not. And she's now the front runner and has to stand there and defend this. And from my perspective, Republicans can only win on national security. Trump in particular looks very tough on this issue. Cruz as well. And I think the American public once they start to realize that this is a homegrown problem, this could potentially be right in our backyard, right here, not far away, not something that is untouchable, but something that could be right here tomorrow or today. I think people are going to look and say Hillary Clinton is not someone that inspires confidence or security for me.
I also think that, to Dana's statistics, I am someone who was willing to give the president the benefit of the doubt originally when he talked about his plan for ISIS. Okay, like, let's hear it. I want to hear what you have to say. When you talk about it being a JV squad, when you talk about not taking it so seriously, not wanting to give them a platform to promote what they're doing and promote their agenda, but we see the number and the death toll go up, that's when even I have to ask real legitimate questions about if this strategy is not working, Mr. President. We gave you an opportunity here. Now, when is the adjustment going to take place?
Can I just throw one thing in here? We didn't hear President Obama speak on this very much, but we did hear him suggest that in the aftermath of Brussels, we have to, as Americans, we have to be sure we don't change the way we look at the refugee program. In other words, let's take more refugees. I'm hearing, could be wrong, that we are actually taking more than they're even letting us know. So they're coming in, I guess they're going through the vetting process.
That's the lack of adjustment that I'm talking about here.
Right, but come on, is this really the time to be talking about taking more refugees, knowing how controversial that topic is right now?
He's tone
dangerous.
He's deaf. He doesn't, and he's also has a legacy at this point. I mean, he has one foot out the door, and right now I think it's all about legacy for him. And he's a guy that he's not strong on this issue. Everyone knows he's not strong on terrorism.
But you got dumped. You got dumped. Castro. Remember, he went out and put out his hand to Castro, and Castro wrote an op-ed basically saying, "Leave us alone. We don't want you."
Fidel did.
Fidel did. Fidel Castro did. That's got to hurt. You know, he was reaching out to an adversary, and the adversary said, "No. Why don't we do that? I don't understand."
Unrequited love.
Yes. All right.